Katie apologizes. She regretfully got COVID, but her dedicated husband stepped up. Essential marriage does count. And he's going to present her slides, which is really stepping up, not his slides. He's also a food economist, but anyway, so the floor is yours, and thank you for stepping up.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not Katie Lagoudakis, obviously, but closest thing you will get today. Katie's grateful for the opportunity to present here, and reiterates she apologizes for not being with us. I repeat, I get no credit for this. Katie prepared that, and I was voluntold, as a good husband to. She said, I quote, "I spent too much time on these slides to not be presented." So, good. So some outline. Katie wants to thank the Center of Agriculture and Rural Development at Iowa State University for funding her research and also her presence here, even if she didn't make it. So we'll talk about the influences on dietary quality, some of the challenges to changing dietary habits and how sticky dietary habits is. A lot of it has been covered here today earlier, so I will try to selectively go faster in some of those spots. And Katie has a to-do list, potential suggestions for policy change. So there are four main influences for dietary quality. Katie broke down to money, access, and I will put access in quotation, as many people did earlier today, time, and of course, the one that I think, and I had a lot of discussions with Kate about that, it's the most interesting, the behavioral factor. Some Dr. Masters mentioned earlier of the spilling over that makes us change what we eat. So we'll start with money. A lot of research has been done on that again. This is some selective work. There has been found positive correlation between food spending and dietary quality. And of course, and it's been talked extensively here today too, about the socioeconomic disparities and how those can affect the quality of the food we consume. Now, in the research of what happens when we give people more money, and Katie and Hannah is here today too, one of the co-authors, and of course the seminal paper from Hastings, Gessler, and Shapiro, we have variability given income in what we consume. And the truth is, not enough. So that paper, and I'm sure most of you have read, the Hastings, Gessler, Shapiro, they do find that there is some connection, but it doesn't even cover enough that gradient in that paper. The same with Katie's and Hannah's paper. So we have some of the measures, I'm sorry, showing some changes, but again, it's not enough. So the general conclusion for if money can change dietary quality, and go back to what Dr. Masters was saying earlier, it's not enough by itself to have a healthy diet. Then we'll move to access, and I won't spend much time on this. Earlier speakers did that. But first we can say that access matters, we all agree, but doesn't matter much. There is this ongoing debate, and I have a paper on this, multiple people in this room that I know have papers on this, how much access matters. There is an ongoing debate, right? So, and the most seminal paper out of all of them out there is the QJ from Alcott et al., which they found that really the environment, the food environment, the neighborhood doesn't affect that much what we shop for food at home, right? So there is the discussion about food away from home and to be incorporated. There's a lot of ongoing research on that, but access matters, but what type of access? So now, with cautious on this next couple bullet points, the Walmart or supercenter and the dollar store, there is a lot of research ongoing, a lot in the past, on how the type of retailer can affect the nutrition value of what we buy. So I don't want to get into the debate, but there is enough research to say maybe different type of retailers help us get healthier food. Now, according to Katie, because that's her slides, the problem of access seems really to be a problem of time. And of course, that goes for able-bodied folks, and I will elaborate that in a minute. So Kate incorporated those slides in trends in time use. So you can see that female employment and hours worked have risen over time. And that it's super significant. And if you can see, we're talking in a massive change, right? And this is from the PSID data from University of Michigan. Even more, you can see here that female housework has declined and male housework has increased. In the next slide, we have some numbers, but the change in male housework doesn't offset decline in female housework. Long story short, we husbands are not as capable as our wives in taking care of food at home. And here is the numbers I mentioned. So back in the 60s, and I still think that it was survey data, I think, so that's still an overrepresentation, but 29% of men reported that they were cooking. I think that might be lower than that, and 2007-8 at 42, I think that might be lower too. So there is, though, according to this number, a change, and supposedly males are more involved, females are less involved, and all this is a function of time. So if we see also, and that's back to the point I made earlier about food away from home, and there is a lot of evidence on that, we have a rapid decline in how much we cook at home compared to how much we buy from away from home. So time, as we can see, the allocation of time in a couple has changed massively. So, and this is a determinant of household food production. Okay? So there are also positive correlations between the preparation time and dietary quality. Obviously, just buying frozen meals and throwing in the microwave is very different than having a well thought out food. And then these time constraints we have been mentioning for the last few slides tend to lead to food away from home, fast food consumption, and a lot of times that can be healthy too, but unfortunately, our food system is as such, and everybody in this room knows that most of the times tends to be unhealthy compared to the food we can prepare at home. Now, this time and money argument, and I told you Katie really likes this point. Sometimes in the earlier slide, I think Alessandro and a couple other people brought up how as economists or people with money, we can buy fancy yoga class, or we can buy grocery delivery, or those soap meal kit services, though those are time consuming too, if you've tried them, and we have. And then there are prepared meal services, or you can hire someone, which it's far more expensive here in the US than it's in my home country in Greece, but it's still an option, especially if you have two household incomes. So who is the most vulnerable? It has to be the combination, the people who have no time and no money, or limited time and limited money. Now, the last determinant of what I'm presenting here is about the behavioral stuff. What is the underlying behavioral mechanism? Why we select some time, even if we have the money, and to eat more unhealthy? And there are many reasons for that. Some of it is habit formation, as Alessandro mentioned earlier. Consuming fries once won't increase anything, but consuming them over and over and over again, being a regular customer to a fast food chain will do it for you. Some of it is cultural. Some of it might be preference, taste, which know how heterogeneous is. We economists love to study that. Some of it is religion. And Katie has been really interested in the blue zones. Mostly I like when she brings that up because there is one in Greece, in Ikaria, a Greek island. So there is one in the US. There is only one in the US, actually, in California. And Katie did some research on that and found that this is attributed to the large population of Seventh-day Adventists. And that's why the diet is the way it is. And the truth is, in Greece, actually, and in the blue zone specifically, our religion, Christian Orthodox, we have Lent 3 times a year, a total of 85 days, 95, my grandma would be angry now, 95 days that we cannot consume a set of products. And that's a significant time of the year, and helps with dietary quality. And of course, media. The average person I read last night consumes 18 meters, sorry for the meters, European here, 18 meters of content on Instagram or Facebook a day in their feed. So a lot of the stuff that is out there, if you're in the foodie Instagram, it's not healthy stuff, unfortunately. And that also can play a role. It's understudied. I think it's an area we can have more, but we're getting influenced every day. Now, in terms of predictors, and that's from the Hart Oster paper, dietary quality in general does not change in response to negative health shocks. It's very sticky. That's what the point is. And it doesn't change if we get unhealthy necessarily, or we have big life events. If something sometimes might have a short-time change, but then we reverse back to the habits we're used to all our life. And I'm sorry for that. It's very rare. Now, what is predicted by is concentration. So we have this thing that it's related to food groups. So we can change to a small number of food groups we do in our everyday life. So Katie, during the spring, we live in Iowa. There is better availability in a specific food group, but that doesn't change our overall habit. If something, teaching 2 courses as a master change our dietary habits. In the spring, we order far more takeout. We can see that in our credit card statements. To wrap it up with what we can do about it, and again, those are some suggestions for policymakers. Maybe hard to implement, but what about going a little aggressive about that, like the cigarette? As a Greek person, I'm always impressed how people do not smoke here in the massive levels they smoke back in Greece. And Katie always reminds me that this is because of the very aggressive marketing back in the 90s and the 2000s. So maybe the solution is something as aggressive as that, or regulations. We have played around with that, but I don't know. Research doesn't show that necessarily regulations change habit formation either. Public health campaigns potentially, but even more, if we can focus our energy as economists in the behavioral aspect of things, maybe try to figure out how we can influence people or make them more literate in terms of what they should be eating. Some of it has to do with extension and outreach. I know a lot of people in the room do an excellent work on that. So dietary quality may not be a priority until stability in other areas of life is. And that's, Katie wanted me to make that a main point here of, yes, all this is good and nice, and how we behave and what their influence is, but if I don't have enough time, because I'm working 2 jobs every day, how I'm supposed to think about the quality. I just want to put food on the table. And that's unfortunately the reality that they face, as excellent presentation from ERS earlier, 13.4 in the US, but almost 1/3 in other countries, even worse than here. That's what you should tell to Kate if she asks you. Oh, God damn it.
Any questions? No, you. Hong. Yeah, you can present next. Yeah. And again, thank you very much.
And I have slides over there. He has my slides.
Not here?
Not here yet.
Oh,
Thank you. I guess I will start.
Which one?
Yes, last one.
I'm just gonna leave it up just so she can go.
Can you hear me? All right, thank you so much to Seafair as well as Gulf for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here with a great panel today. And So I promise you there's no regression results, no equation, but for some of the questions I'm going to raise here, I don't even have answers, okay? So first of all, we will go over the current situation of dietary-related chronic disease, dietary behavior, and dietary patterns. Then we are going to change about transformative changes in the food consumption and production. And I'm going to raise a question about food as medicine. And also we'll talk a little bit about the policy consideration. So if we look at chronic disease in the United States, about 6 out of 10 individuals have chronic disease, and 4 out of 10 have at least 2 chronic disease. And 1 in 3 Americans have pre-diabetes, and 72% have either overweight or obese. If we look at the 10 leading causes of deaths, and most of them can be modified by changing lifestyle. But as Katie said, changing lifestyle is not easy, right? And economists try to see what are the incentives to modify the behavior. And if we look at the dietary behavior among Americans, and here are some statistics. So 70% of the US diets is focused on processed food. And Americans spend 10% of their disposable income on fast food. And also among the high school or middle school students, 60% of them have soft drinks in vending machines. So in a way, it explains why we don't have dietary quality because of those behavior, right? And if we look at adult obesity in the United States, it's about more than 2 in 5 of the US adults having obesity. And of course, we understand obesity prevalence are different or vary by different groups between high income versus low income at different ethnicity backgrounds, as well as different highly educated versus less educated. But overall, obesity accounted for nearly 173 billion in medical expenditure in 2019 dollars. And people talk about, okay, we need to do something. Are we going to do preventive actions, or are we going to do responsive actions, right? There's lots of study in the agriculture economics literature as well as general economics literature as well. And we'll present dietary quality effect, how dietary quality affect poverty and growth, and what are the least cost healthy options by country with different income levels. Here I would like to present some work which is done with my collaborative research with Mai at Renmin University and her group. So basically, we look at the food consumption in kilogram per capita by different countries or different country groups. So we have China, which is the first panel. The second panel is Asian countries, South Korea and Japan. And third panel is Mediterranean. And so, next panel is UK, Australia, New Zealand. Last one is in the United States. So if we look at that, we can see that China and Asian countries, if their income level going up, the question is if their income level going up, for example, raising from 11,000 to getting to the income band between 11,000 to 20,000, like other countries, what are the consequences? And here we do see for Mediterranean, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and United States, we see higher proportion of animal-based food consumption. So if China and other developing countries or low-income, middle-income countries get into that nutrition transition, what are the consequences? What are the implications to those countries as well as to the global food supply? And next one is, so I'm going to talk a little bit about food away from home and how this linked to the transformative changes in the production and consumption. So if we look at this figure, compare with in 2023, and if we look at food away from home, we have a 10% increase, and the per capita expenditure for food away from home is more than 4,000. If we look at food at home, which is about less than 2% increase, and per capita expenditure is about $3,000. So the difference in terms of increase or growth rate in the expenditure for those food away from home and food at home kind of reflects the change in the consumer behavior. People are more individual opt to buy food from restaurants or other eating out establishments compared with preparing and eating food at home. And one big change is food delivery. And we all remember how we do food consumption or food purchasing food online during pandemic, right? But this phenomenon, this behavior still persistent after pandemic. So compare with different countries, China is the leading online food delivery market, and the United States is the second. In 2024, the revenue for food delivery is about $350 billion in the United States, and it's projected to be greater. And if we look at different food delivery apps, and we see 4 different, the leading one is DoorDash. And I remember how my kids order food in college because I can see how much they spend, where they spend. So this is going to be common practice, especially among young adults, right? So the question is with those changes, how this is going to affect the food marketing, how this is going to affect the dietary quality and nutrition sufficiency, right? And this is different from 10 years ago. And this is going to impact our research as well. And the second one is with all those changes, we also get access to a big data. Think about if you have the order history of all the individual in one particular platform like DoorDash. What are information we can extract from those data? We can look at their consumption pattern. We can look at their constraints or the determinants of those consumption patterns. For example, Katie mentioned time constraint. And this is definitely one of the determinants for those, right? And this, with such a big data, is going to allow us as agriculture economists to answer more questions regarding the behavior change. And the second one is, what if we can do some experiments using those platforms, right? The experiments, like Rudy's experiment said, well, what if we can give incentive for the fresh produce? And what if we can have discount on those platforms and kind of nudging them to buy more healthy food items? What if we can do experiments, kind of nudge them to be more environmental friendly, right? And one of the experiments we are going to implement with my collaboration with Mai is how we can use the biggest leading online food delivery platform to improve the environmental awareness. And next one is, let's look at the transformative changes in food consumption. So in the past, we talk about processed food, right? Now people are talking about ready meals. And if we look ready meals markets, it's about 7% of global food marketing in 2024. And China is the largest markets, and contributing about 16% of global revenue. Per capita revenue is about $46 per capita per year. And if we look at the United States, it's the second largest market, and per capita revenue is about 172, only below what for Japan. So the question is, with those ready meal production or industry has been increasing, what are the consequences? How we can leverage this for dietary quality, nutrition quality. And one question I was thinking about, what about lifetime medicine? And among those lifetime medicine concepts, one of the things is food as medicine. So food as medicine, basically we can leverage those, for example, we can leverage ready meals to deliver the food with medical improvement for subsets of the population. So there's a different concepts by different institutes. And I kind of highlight some of them. And let me read the first one. Food is medicine initiated in some cities not only addresses food insecurity, but also targets chronic disease by customizing the food delivered to its recipient. So it's talking about the food delivery, which could be enabled by the technology. It talks about how food actually linked to health, linked to chronic disease, right? Food as medicine is a category of the tailored food-based nutritional interventions specifically linked to the healthcare system that are intended to prevent, treat, and manage chronic disease, often address food and nutrition insecurity. And the next one, I'm going to talk about some research. I collaborate with David and Sanjina. They are on the audience as well. So both Bill and Park talk about the food policy. And Asander talk about individual risk, right? So we would like to see, well, some food policy target individual may have implication for micro level. So I'm going to use the case study of the example regarding the relationship between BMI and life expectancy at the micro level versus macro level. So at micro level, we cannot see this inverse U-shaped relationship. So if your BMI go up, for example, we talk about double burden malnutrition in developing country, right? Developing country. So we have underweight, we have overweight. So BMI go up for those population at the left tail of the distribution, and it's going to be good, right? So life expectancy will go up. But on the right tail, if BMI go up, and we see the reduced life expectancy. So at the individual level, we see that. Now the question, how this can convert at the micro level. All the policy targeting individual level have implication at the macro level. So if we look at the different countries on your left side is between the high income versus low income. And on your right side is for OECD country versus non-OECD country. And the vertical axis is BMI, horizontal axis is life expectancy. So we do see in OECD country and high income country, we see the relationship is negative, right? So means higher BMI, lower life expectancy. But on the, for the low-income country and non-OECD country, we cannot see slightly U-shape, reverse U-shaped curve. So that means at lower BMI, increased BMI could be better at the macro level, increasing the life expectancy on average. So we also look at the marginal effects of average BMI on life expectancy for OECD versus non-OECD. If we look at United States, which on your left panel, and we see increase 1 unit of BMI will reduce life expectancy about 1.4 years. And if we look at the low-income country, which is on your right side, and increased BMI actually will increase, or increase 1 unit of BMI actually increase life expectancy. So sure, there's a disconnection between micro and macro. So why economists does not have too much study around that? Like Alexander mentioned, there's a difference between the medical research versus economics research, right? So in medical research, there are studies talking about the relationship BMI and intervention food consumption, how this changes their life expectancy. But because we don't observe an individual over the time of their life, so it's hard, it's difficult to get data, it's difficult to have the causality. So using the macro data may help us to understand the association better, which also have implication when we look at the policy and policy at the individual level, the impact versus policy at the macro level, it could be different. Especially for developing countries when they face both underweight and overweight at the same time. And here's all my talk. I'm still on time.
Quick question, because lunch is waiting. I'm sorry. But if anyone wants to ask Hong any question, please do approach her and fascinating presentation. And we have lunch outside. Let's plan to return by 12:30. Then we're honored by our guest Spiro, who will talk about ERS and beyond. So but we need to have the talk here. That's because of the structure of the way they set it up. So lunch is outside in a different room, but let's return in half an hour and then have the lunch talk here. You can eat here, but the lunch is served there.
Will we bring the lunch in here and start here in half an hour?
Yeah, so they won't see you.